is Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast about running, health, family, play, and an NSNG lifestyle. And now, here's your host, Ruel.
Excuse me as I rock on. That's Went Away by Dorothy Lane. Dorothy Lane out of Martinez, California. That's out of the Cut and Dry album. Check them out at dorothylanemusic.com. Yeah. This is a weird introduction. Hey everybody, it's Ruel's Running Podcast. I'm your host, Ruel Abadam. Welcome. It's another episode. What's going on, guys? What's going on? Hey, why do bananas need sunscreen? So they won't peel. But I love bad jokes. Well, they're not even jokes, are they? They're riddles. Jokes are more like you're telling a story and then there's a punchline or something, right? And a riddle is more like a question, like a puzzle you have to solve, right? And give an answer to. You're just not sitting there listening to it. But what do I know? I ain't no comedian. I'm on the go, guys. I'm on the hunt for some food. Not for me, but for my wife. Because that's what I do. I go hunting for food. I'm a warrior. I'm a hunter and gatherer. You know what? That's how I do. I'm gonna hunt for some Vietnamese egg rolls and an oat milk tea with boba. You guys know what boba is, right? Tapioca balls. It's, when you have the male tapioca spread its legs, and right in the middle under its tapioca penis are its tapioca balls. And that's what a lot of folks like these days who go to these boba shops, these milk tea shops. They're like sucking on tapioca man's tapioca balls. So, that's what's going on. The kids love it too. It's kind of disgusting to think about it. But yep, I'm a hunter and gatherer. I'm a modern hunter and gatherer. Speaking of hunting and gathering, I was kind of enjoying a trial subscription or a trial membership of YouTube TV. How do you like that transition? And because it gave me the more options to hunt for something to watch and gather it on my device so I can view it. That was awful. But the programming wasn't awful. Why? Because I finally got a chance to watch the whole season of Cobra Kai. So, if you're like me, kind of like grew up in the 80s. Yeah, Karate Kid, right? Karate Kid 2. They should just keep making them. Well, I guess that's what Cobra Kai is about, right? Like Rocky and the Rocky sequels, then Balboa, and Creed, all these spin-offs. But it'd be stupid because it's like Daniel LaRusso or LaRusso 1, LaRusso 2, or what was the guy's name? Johnny from Cobra Kai. I don't even know what his last name was. So dumb. And Pat Morita's no longer around, so you can't do like like Miyagi, Miyagi, like the prequel to Mr. Miyagi, back when he was, I don't know, some punk kid in Okinawa, right? And how he became the sensei. Then you do Kreese, right? The original sensei for Cobra Kai. You have like Kreese and his sort of story, how he became who he became. Why not? That guy's still around. That actor, he's in the series. So what are we talking about? I already talked about food because I'm a hunter and gatherer. I want to talk about family and a little bit about health. First, a little bit about me. I have a birthday around the corner, so by the time this releases, I would have celebrated it. Woken up in a hotel room in Las Vegas with a black eye, just me and my boxers and bathroom. I don't know, maybe handcuffed to the bathtub, because the bathtubs in Las Vegas have legs, or maybe it's just the rail. There's a rail there next to the bathtub in Las Vegas that I'm staying in, because I need the assistance. And then there's a tiger in the hotel room for some reason, with a gold and diamond studded collar. What? Oh my God. Yeah. So that's how I would have celebrated my birthday. Yeah, so by the time this releases, it would have happened, and hopefully I survived to get to that age, that wonderful age. Now, what it means is I'm starting to get birthday wishes trickle in through the Facebook. It's an app on my smartphone. You should check it out. The Facebook, and it's great. And getting to hear from folks that I ordinarily don't hear from, but we know who we are, like a cousin. I appreciate the well wishes, and my cousin, this particular cousin, I look up to, and he's had an impact on my growing up, on my life, because as I was still kind of growing up in, elementary school, and even junior high, I want to make this left turn here. All I do is left turns. This vehicle cannot turn right. So my cousin, he gave me some advice when I was pretty young. And when I was pretty young, I was pretty heavy. I was one of the few husky kids around, but compared to kids these days, I was pretty solid and didn't look like I had a problem. So basically, times have changed and shit's gotten worse as far as some of the youth and stuff. So anyways, I guess it depends. But, I was a heavy kid, and my cousin, who's probably, I want to say, 5 years older, he himself was heavy, and he basically gave some advice. His advice was, don't be like me, right? And, today I look at it and it's kind of sad, right? Because we were all pretty young. If I was like in junior high, he was done with high school. No, he wouldn't have been in high school. So, for a high school kid to be at a point in his life where he's like, don't be like me, you know? It's kind of sad. But, you know, thinking about it, but now, you know, I mean, back then I was like, okay, I look up to him. I respect him. He's my older cousin, and that's just kind of how it goes in our family, you know. And I eventually turned things around. I tried to pay attention to exercise and things, and I didn't really change how I ate intentionally. I just by circumstance, I ended up eating differently because I changed where I lived. And I've talked about it in the podcast before, where there was a point in my young teenage years where I had the opportunity to live with my grandparents, my grandparents, my dad's side, and you know, I just consumed whatever my grandparents prepared, and you know, it was basically old school traditional home cooking my grandmother made, versus, you know, at home with my mom and dad, both parents working, and there was just a heightened level of an advertising of convenience foods and stuff, and I had easy access to the convenience stores and running my dad's tab, so I can running up a tab my dad had with the owners there, because my dad would run a tab so he can get his beer and cigarettes. And whenever I had to fetch that stuff for my dad, because it was allowed back then, my thing was, if I want to go fetch you some beer and cigarettes, Dad, and run up your tab, I want to throw a few things for myself, mainly like chips and candy and sodas. And I did that year in, year out, grow pretty young. Not to mention, you know, my mom, she worked from a time or two at a little sort of convenience stores on the military property that would serve the service individuals, and she would come home, you know, having bought, you know, frozen food and stuff. So I was really into like the processed stuff and the snacks and the sweets and stuff, and that, I believe that lack of knowledge of what that was going to do and how it contributed to my child obesity, you know, that, you know, I compare, you know, comparing that to living with my grandparents, it was a complete shift, and and which begun my weight loss. So it was great. And then I started exercising. I started getting skateboarding. I started hanging out in high school with folks who wanted to do things like cross country and track and whatever, and soccer. And I got into those sports for the social aspect in high school, and you know, they got me pretty active, and it got me to maintain or avoid becoming that obese kid. But I still held on to a level of thickness, primarily around my legs, you know, and stuff. But yeah, so this is a cousin I'm talking about, a cousin who said, "Don't be like me." So I managed to avoid being like him. And recently he reached out and just wanted to wish me happy birthday. And right now he's really in bad shape, but he seems to be settled in this condition. He basically said, "Happy birthday, you know, take care of your health. You only have one life to live, you know, live it to its fullest, blah, blah, blah." Right? That's the same guy that said, "Don't be like me." Right? So I'm like, okay, I got it covered. Right? I'm good. What's going on with you? And he basically says that for 15 years he's been on disability for whatever reason, and his condition is heart failure, and you know, he has to take it easy. He just basically tries to live as stress-free as possible, and all he does is take care of himself, take care of his mom. Everything's good, you know. To me, it's like, how do you say live life to its fullest, but you settle in a condition that keeps you on disability for 15 years? I tell him that it's not too late, right? Basically what I'm saying is, it's not too late to try and make small tweaks so that you don't have to be you can be a different condition, a different shape, stronger, more youthful, right? Because let's say if he's 50, to me, that's still dang young, and there's no reason why someone in their 50s should be settling for just, I'm going to take it, how do you live your life to its fullest if you aren't able to physically go out and enjoy life to its fullest? Where living life to its fullest is just basically being around. And, I don't know. But I threw that out there. I said, you know what? 2012, I made a nutritional shift that benefited my health and all of that stuff. I said, it's not too late for you. And he's like, no, he basically replied with, like, it's all good, right? And, wished me well. So basically he was just trying to end it there. I'm like, cool. Ended it there. And, so, then it got me thinking, and then it got me talking about it now. So if I want to live life to its fullest and die, then I'm going to be doing something that I love, right? And doing something I love is not going to be on disability, and not and being in a condition where my heart cannot isn't strong, and my heart cannot function well, right? It's you basically weak on the inside and inflamed all over, and you're carrying more weight than your body, the human body's meant to. And you're not living life to the fullest, man. I'm sorry. And if it ain't me talking about it, then everyone's just sitting around waiting for you to just like croak, nonsense. I know you don't listen to this podcast, but should you, it's, listen to it. Listen to what I'm saying. Reach out to me. Fuck, man. Do you need a website? If you're an individual, a consultant, a group, or small business and need a site, or maybe you have an existing site, I can help. How about graphic design? Do you need a design for a t-shirt, logo, product, business cards? Maybe you need help with designing and developing a brand. I'm not an expert, but I do have the tools and the techniques to get the job done. How about a podcast? Yep, like this thing. This thing's a silly little show. Are you looking to set up a podcast of your own? Are you looking to reach an audience? Promote your business via podcast? Well, Abadam Studios. That's right, Abadam Studios. Yeah, so that's Abadam Studios. AbadamStudios.com, AbadamStudios.com. Check it out. So yeah, I realize that makes me sound like an asshole. And maybe I am. But when so many of your family members have gotten to a state of unhealth, it makes you become that asshole sometimes. I think if you are that family member that's just sort of doesn't pay attention and doesn't at least utter a level of concern, maybe you're the asshole. When I was younger, when we were both younger, he told me, he was concerned about me. He says, don't be like me, right? Like, I had a general sense of what that meant, and I've been fortunate enough to not be like him, because that easily would have been me. Later in life, after, I remember in 2011, I got pretty heavy, for my size. And, I had accomplished a lot of, youthful activities, from high school sports to being that sort of gym rat to home gym rat to, martial arts, being sort of entrenched in martial arts related activities and regaining a level of, fitness that, physical fitness that put me in a place where, I could stand toe to toe with the more experienced fighter, and we can trade blows. We can trade hooks to the head, right? Obviously, we were just screwing around. You know, to be honest, if you cover up with some pretty hefty gloves, you know, and you're still trading heavy blows, that stuff still takes its toll on you, and it did, believe me. But I was standing there toe to toe with this guy in class. He was the instructor, and I was sort of like at that time I was sort of the, I don't know if you want to call it a teacher's pet, the senior student, just someone with a little bit more experience than the rest of the class, that I assisted the instructor. And it was like, you know, okay, we're gonna work on our hooks. This is what it looks like. This is how we cover up. And we just stood square in front of each other, you know, and just we just went to town. And this was just a conditioning class that had like, majority of it was women, and they're probably like, what in the world are they demonstrating? Are they going to expect us to go full power at each other like that? Anyways, let's get back to what I'm trying to say here is, you know, I've gone through a level of fitness conditioning and then fallen off, and then gotten to a different level of fitness and conditioning, then fallen off. And as I aged and as my family grew, you know, you can't help but wonder, like, I gotta get myself back in shape. And what you keep thinking about is, like, I gotta just keep doing what I used to do that worked when I was younger. Like, I need to run cross country. No, you're not. You're in your 30s. You're in your 20s. You're in your 30s. You're not gonna run high school cross country. You know, you're not that 115, 117 pounder anymore. You know it. You know, after the first kid was born, it's like, and I was getting out of shape. I got to get back into 4 martial arts, and I got to dedicate 4 or 5 days a week to martial arts. Now, that's not going to happen. You know, you're a parent now, and you've got to be around to help take care of your child and your family, and work full time. You know, so I got to go back to the gym. I got to become a gym rat. It's like, no, none of that happens. You know, there's no time for that. And it ain't working. So, you know, but I did find myself, you know, like, wow, you know, my doctor's has not classified me as type 2 diabetic, but I'm pretty sure that I was pre-diabetic, you know, or which is basically type 2 diabetic, right? But, you know, my belief is my numbers have to get really, really sunk deep into that condition for the doctor to be like, yeah, we got to start giving you medication for this, you know, and it's just, you know, I'm an asshole because I know that, you know, things ain't right, and, you know, like Vinny Tordovich says, you know, your good intentions are stolen, right? And even the good intentions of these doctors are stolen, right? Come on. So, I'm fortunate to get those little words of advice from my cousin to not be like him. I'm fortunate to come across an SNG, Vinny Tordovich, and bottom line, it's all about what I learned from Vinny on his podcast, right? Which today, go to Fat A Documentary, the film, on iTunes, on Vimeo, on Amazon. Catch that film and you'll understand, without me having to sound like an idiot and an asshole, what's really going on with the state of our health and our nutrition in our country and our community. So I can't help but be that asshole. I'm an asshole. Hello. I had to reboot because the last attempt of recording, you don't realize it because there's nothing from that recording, the mic wasn't being picked up for some reason. Wah, wah, wah. I don't know if you caught that. That was a big old truck with a jackhammer tip busting out the road. So, speaking of hi-ho, did I even start off with hi-ho, or was that the failed attempt earlier? Anyways, is it just me? You know the hi-ho song from the Seven Dwarfs? Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? Dwarves. He goes, hi-ho, 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 do-do-do-do-do-do. Yeah, they have this. There's a line in that whole song where it goes, dig, 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 something along those lines. I swear, I mean, listening to that song reminds me of Lil Jon and the East Side Boys, Get Low, where the line is, there's a few lines that say ski ski, right? So the dwarves say dig dig, dig dig, and Lil Jon and the East Side Boys say ski ski. To the windows, remember that one? To the walls, till sweat drips down my, or something like that, my nuts, my balls. Yeah, you should Google that. Google both songs and then tell me whether or not you think Lil Jon was inspired by the Seven Dwarfs in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, or tell me that Lil Jon wasn't inspired by Disney's lyricism. So, my previous failed attempt at a recording had me talking about food, and to be honest, it wasn't that exciting. I talked about avocados and guacamole, and I confused the two, and I said, I make avocados using guacamole, and I don't make avocados. I'm not an evil genius that knows how to create avocados. Anyways, so it was sort of like, since we were talking about a-holes, let's transition into food. Because nothing comes out of your a-hole unless you put something in your pie hole. And that's food, generally. So yeah, I've been spending a lot of time making, not a lot of time, but there's a lot of mornings where I'm making fresh guacamole with avocados. And it's a very simple recipe. It's just a little bit of chopped onion. I use the purple onion. And a little bit of chopped tomatoes, fresh chopped tomatoes. And a squirt of lemon juice or lime juice. And a big pinch of salt. And the avocado. Mush, mush, mush. Till it's all good and creamy and done. And what I'll do is I'll make that for my wife, and I'll put it in a ceramic lid with a lid, ceramic container with a lid, and she takes that to work as part of her lunch. And in addition to just putting all the guacamole in the dish, I'll take a saran wrap or a plastic wrap, and I'll press it up against the surface of that guacamole and try to push out as much air as possible to provide a good airtight or seal or minimize the amount of air that's going to contact the guacamole, because you do want to minimize the amount of browning that happens to the avocado in the guacamole. It starts to look unappealing as it starts to darken and get brown. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought I'd mention that because I haven't done a whole lot of what's cooking, y'all. And that was what's the deal. Yeah. Still doing the steaks on the cast iron pan. Yum, yum, yum. And I switched it up. I used to take the I used to take the tri-tip steaks or the petite sirloin and put it on a dry cast iron pan. Now what I'm finding out is I enjoy doing it when I toss a pat of butter, good old Kerrygold grass-fed butter, onto the pan and then put the steak on that. It's just a more enjoyable experience. And yeah. Dun, 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 dun. You know what? That's it for food. I'm done talking about food. Now, I was hoping to talk about what's not going on and what hasn't been going on. So I guess I'll do that. I'll start off with what hasn't been going on. And I feel what hasn't been going on is getting together with Tony Portera to record the next episode for the Ultra Diner podcast. I spent the whole summer busy with other things, and I know that he's been busy as well with prepping his family, his daughters to go to college and stuff, finding colleges and whatever. So I didn't feel like bothering him at the time. We did contact each other on text briefly, I guess after something significant had gone on in the ultra running community, I suppose, and or there was some big accomplishment. But so he's like, we should connect and podcast. I'm like, yeah, we definitely should. But then neither of us got back with when you want to do it, because I'm pretty sure at the time when we had exchanged that chat, it wasn't the right time. We were both in things like I was probably on vacation, or I'm pretty sure I was on vacation somewhere in Arizona in the heat of it. And yeah, and the other thing that hasn't been going on, but not much as the Ultra Diner is want to get together with Lonnie and record the next episode of the Service Guys podcast. Haven't done that. A lot's been going on I've already mentioned my summers being busy with the kids and stuff, but I know Lonnie's mom had been going through a lot of medical things, cancer treatments and bone marrow treatments and of that kind, and so I know that I can only imagine that there was a lot of movement, transitions, change, appointments and things of that nature. So I just wasn't hopping at the chance of trying to find the podcast. On top of already being swamped with the summer thing, so I feel sad. And the only way that I'm able to get these episodes out, and they're not being put out as regular as I'd like and timely, because I've been cheating. I've been recording segments at a time, like I am now, and banking them. And then when I'm able to have the time to sit down, I would put together the episodes, and then I would have to backdate the episodes. So, like for example, the next time you see a podcast episode for Ruel's Running Show up on your podcast player, right? You think, ooh, it's a new episode. But then I would have been sneaky and I would have backdated it, so then you would see a different release date of like maybe several weeks back. But it shows up as a new episode for you. So sneak, sneak, sneak. Ski, ski, ski. Dig, dig, dig. So I feel lame. So I am driving, and I need to do a little bit of grocery shopping. This is the scene of where about a week ago I saw a woman in her car try to exit a parking lot, and she had backed out of her parking slot, and she didn't clear the curb which she had parked next to, and over the curb was a fire hydrant, or a water hydrant. It wasn't a fire hydrant. It wasn't yellow, it was white, and there weren't red or blue not blue, but there wasn't a colored curb around it saying don't park next to it. So I think it's one of those water hydrants that are used for other things other than not like for emergency purposes. But I saw this woman have her front end pressed up against the water hydrant and had caused it to bend or bow, I want to say 45 degrees. And the only reason why I noticed it was because another vehicle as I entered the parking lot, another vehicle was exiting the parking lot. It's a bigger parking lot than where this woman was, but I heard a honk, and I'm like, who honked? I turned around, saw this vehicle with the front end pushed up against the water hydrant. I'm like, ooh, that's not good. And I just kept on driving in the lot, and then a second later, I turn, and the start of the geyser. All of this kind of murky water just shooting, as tall as the nearby Starbucks building. And then shortly after, the murky looking water became white because it cleared out and it was just white and clear and all of that glorious geyser goodness. And it got twice as high, I guess, once the damage had really revealed itself. It went from 1 story high to 2 story high. I was on my way to get my money back from a Vietnamese restaurant, and to be honest, I don't even know if I recorded and talked about this yet, but I went over to this Vietnamese restaurant and ordered something for my wife the night before and brought it home. It was takeout, and it sucked. And I called the guy up at the restaurant that night and said it sucked, and I want my money back. And I had this whole speech in my head about why you need to give me my money back, but fortunately there wasn't a fuss, and it was just not good. I don't have good things to say about it, but I was on my way to do that, and when I witnessed this pipe break. But anyways, that was then. This is now. Here I am. I'm in the same vicinity at a grocery store because I got to pick up ingredients for some additional meal prep. And so went from food to meal prep. I got to pick up some ingredients. I just came from a different grocery store. I picked up some cross-cut pork ribs, bone, and I picked up a package of pork bellies. Yum. A handful of vegetables. I'm going to be making a dish called sinigang, pork sinigang. That's a Filipino dish, and it's going to be delicious. And that's that. Okay. So I'm in a little bit of rough shape. Yeah. So got dealing with a bit of an injury, and that's okay. Now, since wrapping up the summer, been trying to get back into the swing of things. Not just getting back into the swing of things of, getting a better cadence on the podcasts, but my running. And now that the kids are in school, I'm in the office several days a week, and I love doing my running when I'm out in the city. So this past week I managed to squeeze in 2 lunch breaks, and I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of tough. Sometimes being on a break for so long, it's so easy to say, yes, I'll go out to lunch with you, fellow coworker and friend, versus I told myself that I was gonna go for a run, so I'm good. Have a great lunch. So I managed to get 2 days in, two runs in this week. The first one was, I think 3 miles. And it was more of just trying to get back in the swing of things, not trying to do anything intense. And then a couple days after that, which was I want to say yesterday, I went out. Rather than thinking about time, I just thought about, okay, what ground do I want to cover that I've covered before? So I'm in San Francisco, I'm south of Market, and my route would be, cross over Market, hit the financial district, climb up, run up California Street. What is that? Nob Hill, top of the hill, right by the Mark Hopkins and the Fairmont hotels, and just keep on going, till I cross Van Ness, and I'm on that side of the city, and at some point I catch Diviz or Divisadero, hook a right, and I end up somewhere on Pacific Heights, I believe. Gorgeous view when you're on top of those hills, and find my way down, crossing Lombard, and eventually on the marina, along the Marina Green. So I'm running along Marina, heading towards Fort Mason. And in the past, what I've done is I've gone through towards Ghirardelli Square and Pier 39, all of that stuff, and caught Columbus from there to head back into the financial district. But at that point of the run, I do get tired. At that point of the run, I do start to feel it, because I climb and I do a descent, and and it's pavement, and it's pavement and it's downhill, so pounding pretty good, and that does take its toll. It does take its toll. Especially recently, I'm just trying to get back into the swing of things. It takes more of a toll. And so rather than heading towards the Aquatic Center and Ghirardelli Square and Pier 39, I from Marina and Fort Mason, I'll just run along what's called Bay Street, and then from Bay Street catch Columbus, and then find my way into the financial district. So all in all, I got almost 8 miles, a little short of 8 miles in, and that you hear is me twinging and cringing with a back spasm, because I think my body's going through that adjustment. Part of the adjustment is my body. I'm not realizing it, but I have banged up my body. So today, I just bent down and picked up a small object on the floor, specifically a rubber band, and my back almost went out. But it almost went out, meaning I hurt my back picking up a rubber band, and my back isn't out. I still have mobility, but I do have back spasms and pain, and it's going to be interesting trying to recover as quick as possible from this. So yeah, wah. So that's my run update and my health update. Okay, so here we are, and we're in the middle of that's not the right way to say it. We're about to wrap up. After today, it's the Labor Day weekend's over, so we're looking at Monday right now, as of this recording, and the family went on a one-nighter sort of camping trip, and it was a great experience, and it was at Gilroy Gardens. They have, if you're not familiar with Gilroy Gardens, the town or the city of Gilroy has a theme park or an amusement park called Gilroy Gardens, and the way I like to describe it is, if you live in Northern California, the Bay Area, it's the perfect place to go if you have little ones. For us, it's enough of a drive to feel like a drive, but it's not far enough to be a drive where you actually need to book a hotel stay somewhere so that you can, enjoy the amusement park. You could just easily drive over and spend the day and make your way back home. So we've done a couple years where we were annual pass holders, and then we stopped re-upping the annual passes because it seemed like at some point that maybe the kids aren't interested in it anymore. However, my wife arranged this camping event, I guess, or they have this event, and my wife signed our family up for it, and along the way signed up two of our friends' families as well. So 3 families and everybody else who's there for the event. And it's kind of neat because you go in and you check in the afternoon, and there's a big old field that everybody gets to pitch tents on. So if you imagine, we have our tents and all of these things, and it's not like a full-blown wilderness camping thing at all. The camp feel is definitely pitching a tent and sleeping overnight, but the park feeds you, so they have a nearby pavilion with a lot of seating, and breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They take care of the folks who are the campers, if you will, and it's pretty cool. I mean, and there's a restroom facility, so you're not having to go out in the woods and bury your poop or any of that. But it is nice, at nighttime, lights out. The only one light is coming from the building where the restrooms are at, and it's nice. It can get pretty dark. You can get a good view of the stars in the sky. Get that feel. So, leading up to this camping event, my wife had ordered a tent, a 6-man tent. First time ever owning a tent. And we set it up in the front living room. And it was massive. And I might have described this earlier. I can't remember. But we set it up in the living room, and it occupied a lot of the space. So as mentioned last Thursday, today's Monday, last Thursday, when I picked up that rubber band and hurt my back, well, it was because I had cleared out the tent. Because I was expecting the appliance person to come in that day to take a look at the microwave and also take a look at the dishwasher. Both things have issues. So I tore down the tent that day, and I'm like, this place could stand to use a vacuum. So I ran the vacuum and came across the notorious rubber band that injured my back. So fast forward, we're here we went to the camping trip. We had a great time, and the first night we were there, it was kind of cool because we got ourselves set up. Our friends got their tent set up, and the little tent village is all set up, and the community is out there camping, got their all their tents pitched and whatever. And then dinner time, and then everyone heads over to do the dinner, and then there's an announcement. After dinner, all the campers will line up by this tunnel, and then through the tunnel and make their way into the park. And it was going to be movie night. The movie was Shrek. At the amphitheater in the park. And so all our families head over, and it's kind of cool. But I remember heading out, and then on the way back, kind of running along with the kids on the sidewalk, and I could feel some tightness in my back, but I was feeling good. Like, I'm managing the discomfort, but I think I was just being careless. And what that was doing was I wasn't putting my back out, but I definitely was pounding my body a bit, running on the sidewalk. I could feel the pounding, but sort of ignoring it. And, it was what it was. So we sleep through the night, and we get up for breakfast. They serve us breakfast. It's kind of cool. And then the idea from there is everyone after breakfast, then tears down their tent, packs up, loads everything in their vehicle, and then move their vehicle from the campers parking lot to the general public's parking lot, and then families can make their way into the amusement park, because it's the entrance to the park in the daytime is included in the cost of the camping event. So we have this 6-man tent, and my son's an individual tent, and it heats up pretty quick. It's in the 90s, right? It heats up pretty quick. When we pitched the tent in the afternoon the day before, we were under some shade of the trees on the far end of the field. And then, as expected, in the morning time, the sun would rise on the opposite side, and it would just hit us hard with the sun, which was great because all that condensation, it got down to 60 degrees or in the middle of the night. So, all that condensation in the daytime, all that the heat of the morning kind of helped dry off the tent. But I was pulling out stakes, in the heat, and trying to get the tent folded up and all that. And I didn't realize that as I was pulling stakes out, I must have not been bending over or reaching down properly. And after the last stake, and I put all the stakes back in its storage bag, I was ready to stretch out the tent so that I can begin the process of folding it up, and my back went out. This time it went out. The rubber band with the rubber band on Thursday, it didn't go out. It just spasmed out. My legs got weak, but I was able to keep mobility and go on. But this time, right by the collapsed tent, my back went out, my legs folded, and I caught myself, and then I kind of was on my knees, and I'm like, okay, it's going to subside, the pain's going to subside, and it didn't subside. It didn't subside, and I kind of rolled off to the side of my hip so I can sit down. I'm like, oh, still there, pain's still there, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. And there's still a lot of stuff to be packed. Awful. And so our friend Ed, he helped me up because the thing needed to be folded, and the tent needed to be folded, and there's no way you're going to fold the tent if my useless body was just sitting on it. So he helped me on my feet. He helped me to my feet, and I kind of just stood in one spot for a long time. Couldn't move without a lot of discomfort, so I just stood there in the sun, roasting, while my wife tried her best to get the tent folded up and stored away in its duffel bag. And eventually I started slowly pivoting my feet and shuffling around and trying to get mobility. But I for that event, I unloaded the van, my wife and I, for the process of packing up and loading the vehicle. I had no part of loading anything. I just couldn't. Fortunately, we were there with a couple other families, so we all helped each other out. It was cool. We had a wagon with big old wheels that allowed us to move things, transport things over easily over the grassy field. And so hurt my back pretty bad, but I was able to drive. And so once we packed up and made our way to the general public sort of parking and made our way into the amusement park, I went ahead, we parked, and our friends, everybody was sort of like getting strollers and getting babies and getting things all ready to enter the park. And my wife's like, why don't you go ahead early, before everybody else, so that and we'll catch up with you, because I could not move quick enough. So I made my way towards the park. We all met. We went through security, and at that point, we were thinking, if we can stand to get a wheelchair, it'd probably be a good idea to get this guy a wheelchair. And I was like, it's so pathetic, so sad. And then when we got in through the park, it was like, okay, let's go make our way towards the guest services and pick up a wheelchair. And it's like $15 for a wheelchair. And I'm like, you know what? If we're gonna pay for a wheelchair, forget it. And it's like seeing the $15 sign was telling me, like, you're kind of like, dude, don't submit to the wheelchair. You can save $15. You don't need the wheelchair. I'm thinking, yeah, I can act like stubborn and prideful and see how far that gets me. So, and I sort of rationalized it too. So, I hurt my back, but I think the last thing I need is to just take a load off. I think I need to just stay upright, because there's still a lot of the day, and even in the evening there's a lot going on, and I didn't want to fold and crumple and tighten up just yet. So I opted to not get the wheelchair after all, and was able to attend a very brief moment in the park with everybody. Then my wife and I and our daughter, we had to leave, head back home and get ready to attend a wedding for her niece. So we left our boys with our family, our friends over there, and they got to enjoy the rest of the day at the park and still participate in the lunch that was provided for the campers and all that good stuff. But just trying to stay functional with an injured back. Long story short, we went to the wedding, and I took one of my trekking poles along as a walking assistant, and we got to see a lot of family, and the wedding was fantastic. And right from the get-go, I'm like, I'm gonna go get some adult beverage. It was interesting. They opened up the bar, just before the ceremony. So I had already, at this point, I'm like, I'm just gonna drink. So I had a glass of wine in a plastic cup, and then that was before the ceremony sort of was the whole, like, everybody please get seated for the ceremony. I had finished a thing of wine, and then I'm like, oh my God, how long are these ceremonies typically? Because, like when I go to the office and I sit in a meeting, I want to make sure I have a cup of coffee and kind of gauge how long the meeting is so that that'll gauge how much coffee I'm going to have with me. With the ceremony, I was trying to gauge how long the ceremony was so I can gauge how much beverage I want to have at hand. So I picked up it's sort of self-service beer on tap. So I picked up a glass of beer, a plastic glass, a beer for the ceremony. So I was starting it off what was my rationale? Like, oh, my back hurts, so I need something to sort of dull the pain. So I was just drinking alcohol. And, yeah. Long story short, I did a lot of movement, not a lot of drinking. And I think the drinking helped with my ability to move and not feel any pain, because in the middle of the night, I got up and I was in rough shape. I was such in rough shape that I'm literally right now sitting in the parking lot of the urgent care so I can get myself checked out. So that's where I'm at. I'm seeking to get, I don't know, some medication to help me through the night with all of this discomfort and injury. So, yeah, talk to you later. All right, I'm back. So, how did that doctor's appointment go? It went a little different than what I'm used to whenever I go to a doctor, because of a back injury. And so what I'm used to getting is a muscle relaxant and some printouts on how to sort of self-care, stretch, and all of that good stuff. So I think I got that information, the back information, self-care. And I got a prescription for the muscle relaxant, but I also got something for pain. So I got 2 scripts to pick up at the pharmacy. And what I also got was, I guess, some immediate sort of pain relief via an injection on my right hip, right above my right butt cheek, something like that. Yeah. Not too sure. If it's doing anything. I guess so. I don't know. And there I go. That's me. Not used to telling somebody like, oh, poor me, this is how I'm going through. I feel kind of pathetic. I can't get up. I can't move quick enough. I can't, all of this stuff. It's kind of sad, actually. But, the nurse was very good. She's like, you know what? You don't have to act cool here. And, it's okay. Take your time, You're in pain. You're allowed to kind of feel all these things, and be this way. Like, okay, cool. It's funny because the doctor comes in and immediately the first thing I think is, okay, how do I convince this doctor that I have a problem, right? Because I don't know. I just feel like the doctor comes in and that she's skeptical, that she's going to be skeptical why I'm there. And in the back of my sick mind, I'm thinking that the doctor's thinking he's just here to try to get prescription medication and he doesn't really need it. He's faking it, right? I guess it's sort of like, unless I fall flat on my face, I have to really use my words to try and convince somebody that I'm going through an issue. But so I used my words. She did some quick, easy tests to rule out that I have nerve damage from my injury. Just itching spots along my spine, and does the reflex testing, on the knee. She took her stethoscope, and she used the side of the stethoscope, not the hearing, not the whole heartbeat side, but the side of the ring, I guess, and she used that to sort of tap against my knee, spots at a point in my knee, or each of my knees, to cause me to my reflex action to happen. It was kind of actually shocking. It didn't hurt, but it did made my back or my body sort of get on a how do you describe it? It kind of woke it up. Not sure if it's not quite an adrenaline rush, but it did put my body and my mind on alert after she tapped on my knees, and it caused me to to react. It was sort of I guess what it was the sudden, that sudden kick your legs do for that test. Your legs sort of kick. Nothing extreme, but it was abrupt enough for it to sort of shock my back. I think that's what it was. It wasn't adrenaline. It was sort of like I wasn't prepared to react. I mean, I knew what the test was about, and I knew the outcome. Assuming that I was healthy, right? She's gonna tap on my knee. The thing's gonna kick out a little bit, and I guess my back wasn't ready for that. Weird. So now that the doctor's out of the way, I can sort of try to live a normal life, recover. See, that was it. There was a twinge of pain right there. It was awesome, good times. Yeah. So hopefully it's uphill from here. Cool.
Thanks for listening to Ruel's Running Podcast with Ruel. If you like what you just heard, share it with your friends and your enemies. Also, be sure to check out the site over at ruelsrunning.com. This has been another Coffee with Heavy Cream production. Join us next time for another silly show of Ruel's Running Podcast.